The family had everything you could ever really want.
I was mommy's girl, and then my sister was born.
Cheryl's father was very protective. Some would say overprotective.
Jim Pearson was a person you did not confront, period.
I looked out the window, and I saw my father face down on the concrete driveway.
I remember seeing a bullet wound in his head.
Police discover an arsenal of weapons.
He did have a lot of enemies.
That conversation turned into someone dying.
I know what's going on in your house.
Is murder ever justified? What if the offence is so heinous that it goes against everything we believe is right? These questions will always haunt this case and make it a compelling People magazine story. One that saw no winners.
The Pearson family lived a really nice life in Selden, New York, a town on Long Island. The family had everything you could ever really want. A beautiful home, 2 healthy children, and a parent with a great career.
I'm Cheryl Cuccio, the daughter of James Pearson. Selden, New York was suburban. You weren't afraid to go out at night, ride your bikes. It was that kind of neighborhood.
James Pearson is a successful electrician with his own business. He and his wife Kathleen are growing their family. They have 2 children, James Jr., or Jimmy, and his younger sister, Cheryl.
My father was very protective and very strict.
James Pearson is a good provider for his family, but he has an authoritarian streak.
We were very regimented. We had dinner every night at 6 o'clock. After that, it was homework time. We also weren't allowed to watch TV.
While James is the breadwinner, it's Kathleen Pearson's love that holds the family together.
My mother would never spend any money on herself. Her kids always came first. We wanted to be just like her.
In 1976, the Pearsons welcomed another girl into the family.
I was mommy's girl, and then my sister was born. And boy, was I mad. Me and Joanne were 8 years apart, and I wasn't mommy's little girl anymore.
2 years after the birth of their 3rd child, Kathleen Pearson is diagnosed with a debilitating kidney disease.
My mother became ill when I was 10. She got extremely sick on my sister's 2nd birthday. After we had cake, she went to the hospital. She didn't come out for 9 months after that.
As Kathleen's illness gets worse, James Pearson does everything he can to support his wife and children.
My father took the best care of my mother that he could. He made sure she had the best doctors. I loved him because he really tried to make her better.
Ultimately, Cheryl steps up to help everyone in her house, taking on her mom's responsibility in the home. Cooking and caring for her little sister, Joanne, becomes Cheryl's main responsibility.
Me and my sister, we were extremely close because I became like her mom. The responsibilities brought my father and I closer because he was giving me attention that I never got from him before.
The demands on Cheryl prevent her from socializing with other classmates and having fun, but it's a sacrifice she's willing to make.
I would be asked by my friends to come over. I really didn't want to leave my sister.
During this extremely difficult time, high school becomes a refuge for Cheryl and a place she can really just be a teenager.
I loved school. It was like whatever was going on, I could leave it at home. I was a cheerleader at Newfield High School. I don't know if I was a very good one, but I did like it.
Then, Cheryl has a chance meeting at school with someone that's a lifeline.
I am Robert Cuccio. I was Cheryl Pearson's boyfriend in high school. When I first saw Cheryl, I thought she was beautiful. One of my friends was also one of Cheryl's friends, so I got him to introduce us.
Rob would walk me to my class and try to carry my books. And then we became friends, and he started coming over to my house.
Although James Pearson doesn't want Cheryl to date, he recognizes Rob as a young man who cares for his daughter.
Rob's dad was a New York State detective, so Rob grew up in a strict household as well and was very respectful, and my father liked that.
Cheryl's father was very protective. Actually, some would say overprotective.
In spite of her father's watchful eye, Cheryl and Rob fall in love, but their joy is short-lived. The day before Valentine's Day in 1985, Kathleen Pearson dies.
My mother passed away early in the morning. I went to the school to get my books because I knew I'd be out for a couple days.
Happened to go down the hallway where her locker was, and I saw her. Cheryl saw me and started crying.
I told him that my mom had died, and he was crushed. He felt terrible.
So I was there for her during that time in her life.
My brother wasn't at the house anymore, and so it was just me, my father, and my sister at the house. And reality really set in that this is what my life was going to be. My mom, I knew she wasn't coming home ever. And I knew from heaven she'd be watching.
One year later, on February the 6th, 1986, James Pearson has left for work early, as is his routine. Cheryl starts her day like any other, and there's a lot to do before school.
I came down the hallway to let the dog out, looked out the window, and I saw my father laying face down on the concrete driveway. I ran out and I stood over him. I screamed, "Daddy," and he didn't respond.
Cheryl runs to her next-door neighbor's house and pounds on the door for help.
And I said, "Daddy's laying in the driveway." And they said, "Go in the house with your sister."
My name is Roy Byard. I was a police officer working in Selden. It's approximately 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a call of that Pearson home. When I responded there, I found James Pearson lying face down in the driveway, and I called for an ambulance.
The Selden Fire Department arrives and they begin to administer first aid to James Pearson. There's a large amount of blood pooled around his body.
I rolled him over. I remember seeing a bullet wound in his head, and I saw some holes in his jacket. Other officers arrived. We observed small caliber bullet casings lying on the ground.
He said to me, "It's gonna be okay. Dad just fell and slipped on the ice. He's gonna be okay."
Medical responders check James's vitals for signs of life, but he's too far gone.
The medical examiner's office pronounced James Pearson dead at that point. It turned into a homicide investigation. We decided that I should tell the girls that their father was deceased. I went inside the kitchen. It was the first time that I ever had to tell two children that their only surviving parent was deceased.
Police will have to unravel the mystery of James Pearson's death, and what they discover divides the community of Selden, New York. On the morning of February the 6th, 1986, James Pearson is murdered in his driveway as he leaves for work. Suffolk County Police begin a homicide investigation, trying to figure out who killed James Pearson and why.
Homicide detectives take James Pearson's daughter Cheryl aside and interview her.
Detective McCready asked me if I knew of anybody that would want to kill my father. And I go, "Wait, what? Nobody told me somebody killed him?"
Detective McCready knows that Cheryl has already learned that her father has been shot and she's obviously upset. But it's an unusual reaction. And then she shocks the detective again.
Detective McCready was wearing a cologne that Rob always wore, and I said, "Are you wearing chaps?" He looked at me in a weird look and he goes, "Yes." And I realized he's probably thinking, your father was shot and killed and you're worrying about my cologne.
Detective McCready found it strange by the fact that Cheryl commented on how nice he smelled. He thought it was just very odd.
Everything was such a blur after I found out that my father was dead. I really don't remember that day so much, to be honest with you. The anxiety was just through the roof at that point. I just felt like I needed to run, and I couldn't.
After interviewing Cheryl and her sister Joanne, detectives move through the Pearson home looking for clues that may help find James Pearson's killer.
Police and detectives are struck by the lavish surroundings of the Pearson home, which seem out of place for an electrician.
It appeared as though there was extra money coming in from someplace.
Police then discover an arsenal of weapons that James Pearson owned. They include an Uzi submachine gun.
Police officers wanted to know why my father had all these guns. Why did he need a machine gun? What was he protecting? If you didn't know my father, it was hard to explain his personality.
But according to Cheryl, her father was also not someone to be crossed.
My father wanted everything his way. If somebody wronged him or he thought somebody wronged him, he would hurt them in some way or another. My father had property upstate. Somebody didn't pay their rent, and he would take the gun, shot their car up with it. That's what type of person he was.
Police wonder if the murder may have been payback from someone that James Pearson had wronged.
My father didn't have that many friends. The few that he had, I think, were business partners or attorneys. But he did have a lot of enemies. Maybe somebody killed him.
Police then discover a little black book hidden in the house.
It had people's names with dollar amounts next to these names. It just makes you wonder, maybe he was involved with organized crime. This was another avenue to investigate.
Then, as a puzzling development in the investigation, investigators find a subterranean garage filled with expensive toys.
My father had motorcycles. He had antique cars. He also had a whole recording system, so he could listen to anybody that used the phone upstairs. He would go down in the basement and listen to all the recordings.
Detectives ask Cheryl to help them understand her father's lifestyle.
The detectives couldn't understand why would he have this phone system down in his basement, and why he would have this book of all these people that owed him money, why he would have these guns. There was a lot of things that, that couldn't be explained.
An autopsy confirms that James Pearson was shot 5 times from behind with a .22 caliber rifle. One shot was to the back of his head. Police ask the friends and family who exactly could have had a motive to kill James Pearson.
There were people that borrowed money from him. The few friends that he did have knew that they could rely on him if they needed something. But I think they also feared him.
James Pearson was an impatient person who was quick to anger. He had a bit of an explosive temper.
James Pearson lived in a lavish home and had an estate worth more than $1 million. Investigators comb through his bank accounts and interview his family and business associates, trying to find out where the money was coming from, hoping it could explain why he was murdered. Police discover that James Pearson had been stealing electrical materials from his employer.
My father would steal from his main job, lights and wires and all that, and do side jobs and make money. So the whole thing was a profit.
But could James Pearson's scheme have angered someone enough to want to kill him? Just when it looks like the murder investigation could go in several directions, detectives are contacted by the father of Cheryl's boyfriend.
Rob Cuccio's father told Detective McCready that James Pearson's son, Jimmy, he and his father didn't get along, and that Jimmy was cut out of his father's will.
Detectives learn that a month earlier, Jimmy moved out after a fight with his father that was never resolved. The rift cost Jimmy part of James Pearson's $1 million estate.
My father hurt my brother, criticized him all the time. You know, my brother was never good enough.
Now detectives have a possible motive for James Pearson's murder right in his family. Detectives take a closer look at James Pearson Jr. and call him in for questioning. He denies any involvement in his father's death, and he makes a shocking allegation.
Jimmy said that he suspected his sister Cheryl and her boyfriend Robert Cuccio of being involved with the murder, and that her boyfriend Robert Cuccio asked him to find someone to murder James Pearson.
It's a surprising claim, but with no hard evidence to charge Jimmy, detectives have to investigate his allegations. Police then discover that James Pearson's relationship with his 2 older children was irreparably broken.
My father was very rough around the edges. There was no love in the house. We never said, I loved you. There was no emotions. He had an evil side to him.
According to Cheryl, James Pearson's version of parenting included physical abuse.
My brother and I were the ones that got hit and put up with the emotional and the verbal abuse. We just did what he wanted us to do so we wouldn't get hit. So we tried to be on our best behavior at all times.
Detectives also learned that James Pearson was unhappy about his daughter's budding romance with Rob Cuccio.
Once Rob and I started dating, my father started to become very protective and very strict.
When we were allowed to go to the movies, he followed us. He sat a couple of rows behind us watching us. It seemed more like a jealous boyfriend than it did a father.
One night, while Rob is having dinner at the Pearson house, things take an unexpected turn.
We finished dinner, and I gave Rob the ice cream before I gave it to my father. And my father slapped me right in the face in front of Rob.
He actually smacked her with an open hand across the face.
To my father, that was disrespectful because I gave the ice cream to Rob before I gave it to my father.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. It just didn't make sense.
Back at the station, police aren't sure if Jimmy's claims about his sister Cheryl and her boyfriend are true, but with Jimmy now cut out of his father's will, Cheryl stood to inherit James Pearson's sizable estate. Police decide they need to first question Rob Cuccio. They find Rob as he's leaving Cheryl's house and pull him over.
So I pulled over, and I saw Detective McCready. He told me to get in his car. He's like, we're gonna go for a ride.
Detectives take Rob back to the station and they interview him.
When I got to headquarters, they started to do the good cop, bad cop on me. They kept telling me, we know you shot James Pearson. He's like, you did? I said, no, I didn't. He got in my face and he said, well, if you didn't do it, who did? I told him I didn't do it because I paid the guy who did it.
Eight days into the investigation of James Pearson's murder, Cheryl's boyfriend Rob Cuccio tells detectives that he paid someone to kill James Pearson.
He said that Cheryl had talked to somebody in homeroom about killing her father. And the guy's name was Sean, and then I paid him the $400 a week ago. They thought I had a bigger role in talking Cheryl into doing it. That it was my idea, which definitely was not.
With the shocking admission from Rob Cuccio about Cheryl, Suffolk County Police have enough to arrest Cheryl Pearson and Rob Cuccio for solicitation to murder.
Then they asked me if I would go with them to pick up Cheryl. I was just numb. I was sick to my stomach. I just wanted to get off the roller coaster I was on.
My grandmother brought me out to the living room. And then all of a sudden, Rob comes walking through the door. And he says, "It's okay, Cheryl. I told them everything." So the detective said to my grandmother, "Your granddaughter is responsible for your son's murder." And then she started screaming and crying. "No, no."
I saw Cheryl's face, and I knew I had betrayed her. It made me feel horrible.
And then they just took me and Rob to the police station.
Back at the station, detectives asked Cheryl if what Rob had told them is true.
And I told the detective that I had asked a kid from school to murder my father, that I would pay him $1,000 to do so. I told them that I was being sexually abused by my father.
Cheryl tells the detective the molestation began when she was just 12 years old, and it started during the drive to see her sick mother in hospital.
I'd sit close to him in the middle and he'd stick my hand on his private areas, and that's how it started.
According to Cheryl, the abusive relationship with her father went on for years. And she believes her mother was unaware.
My father raped me from the time I was 12 till the time I was 16 years old. And from the time my mother died till the time he died, it was 2-3 times a day, continuously. Father told me the whole time that no one would ever believe me. And I just felt so dirty and shameful.
Cheryl tells police that when she began seeing Rob, it became harder for her to keep the sexual abuse hidden.
When I was alone with Rob, and Rob started to try to get a little intimate, I would cringe because my father would be in the back of my mind. And then that's when Rob knew something was wrong.
Cheryl and I had gotten into an argument, and I said to her, I know what's going on in your house. I said, "You're sleeping with your father."
And I denied it for a while, and he kept on insisting that I was lying.
I said to her, "Every time I'm around, your father tries to show me that you're his, and something's not right."
And then finally I just said, "Fine, you're right."
Then when I pressed her and she said that I was right, that's still a day I'll never forget.
Cheryl tells the detective when she began to resist him, her father began to drop hints that her sister Joanne would take her place if she refused to provide him with sex.
Detectives are skeptical about Cheryl's claims, so they press her for more information on what led up to her father's murder. She tells them that in November of 1985, a local news story grabbed her attention.
That I had seen the story on the news about this woman that had hired somebody to kill her husband. I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, that would be nice if my father died and all this could just stop. And the next morning in homeroom, I just kind of blurted out, did anybody hear about this woman in our area that had hired somebody to kill her husband for abusing her? I go, who would be crazy enough to kill somebody for money? And this kid in homeroom said he would do it if the money was right.
Cheryl tells the police the boy's name is Sean Peaker.
I remember like it was yesterday, sitting at home and Cheryl talking about this other murder.
Sean Peaker and I were in homeroom for a couple years. Really didn't know him. We weren't friends.
It was literally just talking about, would you actually kill somebody?
A week later, Cheryl approaches Sean in homeroom and tells him she wants someone killed. She says the target is her father.
Sean and I agreed on $1,000. The homeroom bell rang, we got up and we left.
Later, Cheryl tells Rob about the homeroom conversation with Sean Pica.
I told Rob that this kid was interested in killing my father. And Rob said, I'll meet this kid, but it'll never happen.
Months pass, and Cheryl continues to endure the rapes and waits for Sean to fulfill his end of the bargain, but he never does.
I did not immediately know what Cheryl was going through in the house until about midway through the planning stages of what would happen to her dad. She was scared.
On February the 5th, the night before James Pearson is murdered, Sean and Cheryl cross paths at the high school basketball game.
I was doing a cheer, and Sean just ran past me and said, it's gonna happen, I'm gonna do it.
The night before Mr. Pearson was killed, Sean said he's gonna do it.
I really ended up just not having the courage to say, no, I couldn't do it.
The next morning, Sean Pica takes his .22 caliber rifle, loaded with 5 bullets, and gets in his car.
All I could think about was that I had let Cheryl down, and without talking to her again, I just went to her house and killed her father.
A couple days after my father was killed, Sean said that he wanted to meet up to get paid.
I remember meeting him, and we only having $400 for him. I said, listen, you will get your money. Right now, everything's crazy. As soon as we get it, I will pay you.
With Cheryl's admission of the murder-for-hire plot, that's all the detectives need to arrest Cheryl Pearson, Rob Cuccio, and Sean Pica. On February 13th, all 3 are in court for the arraignment on second-degree murder charges for the death of James Pearson.
I had never handled a case quite like this. A 16-year-old girl charged with hiring someone to murder her father. It was an unusual case.
While Cheryl Pearson's story is shocking, right now they are unsubstantiated claims. But then Cheryl drops a bombshell. She says she can prove her father's been raping her.
Cheryl was pregnant, and she said it was her father's child.
The case involved a girl, her father, and murder.
In 1986, the arrests of Cheryl Pearson, Rob Cuccio, and Sean Pica for the murder of James Pearson stuns Cheryl's family and the whole community. Cheryl is pregnant, and she claims that her dad is the father.
The case of Cheryl Pearson focuses national attention on the ugly question of incest.
The case exposes the Pearsons' family incest, and it divides the whole town.
The community of Selden had sharp divisions in the way they judged this case.
People either supported Cheryl and felt that it was terrible that she was arrested and had to go to trial for this, or they thought she should do a lot of time.
If Cheryl is found guilty of murder, the minimum sentence that she would be able to get would be 15 years to life.
I knew from the day that I went to arraignment that this was going to be a horrible experience, that everybody now knew what my dirty secret was. And we had to prove it because my father was right. People didn't believe it.
Cheryl says it was much more than discipline that drove her to desperation. Her grandmother still doesn't believe that.
He didn't set you would, Lisa. No way.
I didn't know if I was going to jail for the rest of my life. I didn't know if Cheryl was going to jail for the rest of her life.
Prosecution contends that Cheryl wanted to end her father's control over her and inherit his estate valued at over $1 million. They believe she concocted the rape allegations, and they intend to prove it.
This was plotted with more than one person. There were so many other options other than having her father murdered.
Cheryl Pearson's defense contends that she felt that she had no choice but to have her father killed in order to stop the sexual abuse and to protect her sister from the same fate.
Cheryl's fear toward her father certainly was going to be part of my defense.
I was a desperate 16-year-old kid that didn't know how to stop it. After my father was killed, I was so relieved that it would never happen to me or my sister again.
While Cheryl's attorney strategizes a defense, detectives continue their investigation into James Pearson's murder and Cheryl's claims of incest.
Investigators learned that friends of the Pearson family did have suspicions about James Pearson's unusual relationship with his daughter.
I felt sick to my stomach knowing that people had an idea and didn't act upon it. I can understand how they didn't want to believe it. But still, it made me sad that nobody helped her.
Cheryl's lawyers discover that she had been seen with bruises before this, and her schoolmate named Diane had actually witnessed a disturbing incident on Valentine's Day, the year before the murder.
I was getting out of the car, and Valentine's Day card fell out of one of my books. My father grabbed my wrist, and he pulled me back in the car because he saw that it was a Valentine's Day card. And he literally punched me in the face in the car 4 or 5 times before I passed out.
Cheryl's friend, Diane, spoke to the school counselor about what she had seen.
The guidance counselors said that there was a problem with me or my family or my household until I went and complained. There was nothing they could do to help me.
While Cheryl sits in jail carrying a child, she and Rob continue their relationship with an uncertain future.
Finally, with the help of her brother Jimmy, Cheryl makes bail.
Cheryl spent 2 weeks in jail before they were able to bail her out.
Meanwhile, Sugarman Sean Pica is stuck in jail. His family is unable to come up with the $100,000 bail to release him.
Some people in town see Sean as some kind of hero who stopped James Pearson from continuing to rape his daughter.
But to others in Selden, Sean Pica was simply motivated by money.
As far as I'm concerned, Sean Pica was a hired hitman. And as a hired hitman, he deserves to go to prison.
In spite of Cheryl's claims, it is a high-profile case, and the prosecution pulls out all the stops to get convictions against Cheryl Pearson, Rob Cuccio, and Sean Pica for the murder of James Pearson, regardless of what the 3 teens say motivated them.
There was a likelihood that a jury would find her guilty. I was very concerned about Cheryl's possible sentence.
Then, Cheryl's rushed to the hospital, bleeding heavily, and miscarries her child.
The foundation of Cheryl's entire defense is based on her allegations of rape and incest. A DNA test will prove if everything she has said about her father is true. But when the DNA test comes back, it's another surprise.
The baby turned out to have Rob's DNA. It diminished Cheryl's defense of sexual abuse with her father.
In 1987, Cheryl Pearson is awaiting trial in Selden, New York, for orchestrating the murder for hire of her father. She claims she's pregnant by him, and she suddenly suffers a miscarriage. And now her defense is on shaky ground.
Everyone soon learns that the baby Cheryl was carrying was not her father's. Instead, it was her boyfriend, Rob Cuccio's.
The fact that the child wasn't her father's, it just weakened her claim as to the sexual abuse.
Cheryl and her lawyer strategized their best course of action. On the advice of her attorney, Cheryl pleads down to manslaughter. The best they can hope for is that the judge considers the mitigating circumstances of James Pearson's murder and accepts her plea.
I needed to plead guilty. I mean, I did something wrong, and we hoped for the best.
Meanwhile, on April 7th, 1987, Rob Cuccio, Cheryl's co-defendant, appears before the court.
My charges dropped to solicitation. I got 5 years probation. I did the best I could to answer the DA's questions without saying anything bad about Cheryl.
Sean Piker also pled down to a lesser charge of manslaughter.
The second that there was an offer on the table and that I would be done with this, I accepted.
Sean Pica, the triggerman, is sentenced to 24 years in prison for manslaughter.
Sean Pica basically did it for money, and it became somewhat indefensible.
I absolutely know that I am judged by the single worst act in my life. I did something I could never change. That's a horrible act. But I did it because I thought I was helping a friend, even at the expense of my own future.
In September of 1987, Cheryl Pearson faces a judge. She could get the same sentence as Sean Pica. The court holds a pre-sentence hearing for Cheryl Pearson rather than a trial. There's no denying Cheryl's role in the murder. Her only hope is that the judge believes her story.
There was 20 people at my hearing that said they thought something was wrong, but not one of them would ever speak of it because they feared for themselves.
People did not intervene because Jim Pearson was a person you did not confront, period.
But when Cheryl takes the stand, she's a compelling witness to the abuse and what drove her to have her father killed.
Cheryl's story has never changed. It stayed consistent. So the people who did support her knew the girl wasn't lying.
I wanted Cheryl to get a sentence of probation and not be incarcerated because, quite frankly, I thought that her fragility, it would be very difficult for her to come out intact from a sentence of prison.
Cheryl's case, which exposed the secret of family sexual abuse, is now in the judge's hand. 3 weeks after the hearing, the judge delivers his decision on Cheryl's fate.
Today, a tearful 18-year-old Cheryl fainted when she heard the verdict.
Cheryl was sentenced to 6 months in the Suffolk County Jail and 5 years probation.
The prosecutor had asked for a 2 to 6 year sentence.
And I'm hoping as time goes by in this case that the public will remember that Cheryl Pearson went to jail as opposed to how much time she received.
I guess the judge just felt what other reason would explain that this would happen. I think he believed me.
Cheryl's sentence is seen by some as unduly harsh, while others believe she got away with murder. But Cheryl accepts her incarceration as a price she had to pay to end the sexual abuse and to protect her sister Joanne.
I have to say, when those bars closed, for the first time in my life, I felt safe. Because one could actually sleep in peace without anybody touching me. And I could lay my head down on the pillow knowing that my sister was safe.
I see this case as one of my success stories. From a legal point of view, I don't think I would have changed a damn thing.
After serving just 3 months of her sentence, Cheryl Pearson is released for good behavior.
When she walked out and I saw her face for the first time free, it's still one of the best feelings I've ever had. Yeah.
At the time, I didn't think it was fair. As an adult, looking back, I think it was very fair. I could have gotten 15 to 25 years in life.
I just want to say thank you to all the people that supported me. And, it was rough, but I made it. And thank you.
Since the day she was released from jail, Cheryl Pearson and Rob Cuccio have remained together, married in 1987 and have 2 daughters together.
The day my mother died and Rob came to my locker, in my heart, I feel like my mother knew she could not protect me from my father. I feel like she sent Rob to me to do that, because he has not left my side for 34 years now.
Cheryl's always saying how I saved her. To me, it wasn't saving her. It was just being there for her. It was just 3 kids in a bad situation. Was it right? Was it wrong? Doesn't matter, because it was done.
In December of 2002, after serving 16 years in prison, Sean Pica is released.
While incarcerated, I got a shot to go to a college prison program run by Hudson Link. About a year after my release, the president of Hudson Link asked if I would consider joining the board of directors. It was a huge honor. I'm working with the governor's task force here in New York to help run the college programs. I mean, for me to have a seat on the board of an organization that really gave me a second chance at life, I think we've done all right.
My brother and sister and I were just trying to function. We are extremely close to this day. When you go through things like that in the house together, you have that closeness that nobody else knows. Some days, I wish Sean didn't get in trouble. I should have never asked him. It was a bad decision on my part. But I'm glad my father's dead.
Cheryl Pearson's story is one of redemption and second chances. She and Rob Cuccio documented it in their book, published in 2016, Incest, Murder, and a Miracle.
One of the things that I took away from reporting on this story and spending a lot of time with Cheryl is that it's very hard for victims of sexual abuse to come forward and talk about their trauma. The fact that Cheryl can tell her story speaks to her strength and dedication to helping other victims of abuse.
I never had a voice as a child, and it was time to have a voice now, because I never want anybody to feel alone. I want to be able to just tell everybody that has been through it or is going through it that it's not your fault. It's not your shame to carry. And that people will believe you, and it does not have to define the rest of your life.